Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in. Been a little bit, figured I'd shoot a little video. I'm gonna finally put this nitrous plate back on this S10. Made a hit with a Mustang last night. You know, a new Coyote, 10 speed, fast, whatever, like a 50 roll, which this truck's slow, but it'd be less slow if it had nitrous on it. So I'm gonna get that hooked back up. You know, it's been, we got that tbss intake manifold mounted and never did get the nitrous plate back on it, so I'm gonna shoot a little video of that, get it hooked back up finally, and let y'all check it out, see what it's about. All right, let me get this camera turned around. All right, boys and girls, got doing this outside. It's beautiful today, but there's our nitrous plate. This is an ICT billet LS3 LSA 1-inch throttle body spacer. There's the number for it, made in the USA. So if y'all haven't seen it, there's another video where I drilled and tapped this and threaded this nozzle in there. That way we get our nitrous spray behind the throttle body instead of out here in the intake tube, which is over here. I don't really like doing that. I don't trust those little mounts. So where you screw the nut on each side and it sandwiches it. You know, if it ever does come loose and your motor eats the nut, well, that's just a big problem. So got the tube pulled off. There's not a lot to this. It's real simple. If I can do it with one hand. All right, so open the throttle blades. I am not gonna be able to do that with one hand, am I? Yeah, there we go. All right. So it's easier with two hands. There's a little notch right there, cable slides out of. So that comes off. This vent comes off. 4 Allen heads come off. Unplug both of these sensors here, and then I'm gonna get the nitrous, the fuel solenoid back out. We're gonna take fuel from here. Got to pull the Schrader valve out of that, and I'll show you all that.
I can see ya.
Action.
Action.
Action. All right, so obviously throttle body's off. Little Chinese 92 came with these 5mm Allen head screws. The ICT billet spacer came with some longer bolts. They're 8mm. But anyway, got that off out of the way. Unplugged these 2 sensors. Got all my nitrous stuff back out of being zip tied up in the corner. So I mounted my fuel solenoid over here, just stuck a little bolt through the bracket that was already on it to the fuel rail. There's a perfect spot for it. And just as GM engineers intended, there's this awesome little spot that you test your fuel pressure on the rail. It's got a Schrader valve in it, just like a valve stem. You can use a little tool like this. And you can pull this Schrader valve out, and you can get fuel for your nitrous solenoid right off of the rail. -4 line. It's like they just intended you to spray every LS motor they ever built.
That's right.
It just, you know, General Motors engineers looking out for us regular folks. So I got that mounted, got both the lines run down here. They're gonna come in from the bottom. That'll mount there. I don't have my jets with me. They're at the house from when I was working on the truck last time, so I have to take it back off. It is inconvenient to get to change jets, but I'm gonna put a 100 shot on it and leave it. That way I ain't gotta pull any timing. Just run 25 degrees or whatever I've got in the computer. And with this back on there, and if we put the engine cover back on it and everything else, you can't see any of it. So it's pretty sleeper. But anyway, I'm gonna get all this bolted back together and show y'all some of that. Get it wrapped up. All right. Cut. Alright, so we got a little bit of a delay. These are what was in there. Obviously they're too short. They're for just the throttle body. The thickness of the throttle body is thinner than the factory throttle body. These here are too long because they're designed to work with a factory throttle body. So I went back to my nitrous stuff, and see, that's the plate we ran before. And I went and dug these bolts out that I used in there. Well, there's only 3 because it's a 3-bolt plate and I need 4. This shows you the difference. there's too much shank, there won't be enough threads. And what these are intake manifold bolts for an LS. Here's what they would have looked like. That is inserted in there. See, that one's bent, but I'm going to cut the bad part off of it so it doesn't matter. But that was in there, and all you got to do, they're hung, they got a little lip they catch on. You just flip this over in the vise, set that there, leave it loose enough so the head will just float, and just take a center punch and hit it with a hammer. That's all it takes. So I'll take this one and I'll cut it down to the length of those. And then we'll have what we need. Alright, y'all. So my guesstimations were incorrect. I had to cut another 3/8 of an inch off of these intake manifold bolts. I guess this, being that this is an aftermarket throttle body and it's so much thinner, I mean, I just eyeballed it before and assumed they were going to work, but it won't. They were bottoming out in the intake and I didn't want to mess it up. But when I cut these, see what our final, take my short tape, our final length on the shank, it's about 1 3/4 inches, maybe 1 11/16 inches. They're not going to be perfect. I cut them with a grinder with a cutting wheel, and then I kind of deburr them with a file, and then I take that little points file and I'll drag it through the last thread where it starts. Try to clean them up best I can, but you want to do that because the intake manifold has got brass inserts in it. And you don't want to mess those up. So anyway, see if y'all can see down in that ported mouth. Look at that thing, all the air. But see if I can get this stuck back together. It's time to wrap it up. Okay, got the throttle body back on. I had to go get some 1/4 inch drive stuff, smaller socket. If you look, that it's real tight in there below this sensor, and with this bolt that's got the shoulder on it, not the shoulder, the what would that be called, the flat part, the flange, there we go. So this flange bolt, you need to, before you snug all the rest of them up, you need to feed that in and get it behind this sensor before you start trying to tighten it up, or it rubs on the sensor real bad. But anyway, the throttle body is on there. Before I snugged it up, Dad, I'm gonna get my flashlight if you don't mind opening the throttle body.
You ready?
Yeah. So I tried my best to center everything and get it even all the way around. That way you got a smooth transition. And it looks really good. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it in the video, but anyway, figure I'd show y'all that. So before I snugged it up, I just got it kind of snug where it wouldn't walk, and then, yeah, you can close it. Thank you. And got it centered the way I wanted it, and then tightened the bolts and did a cross pattern, pulled it down a little bit at a time. That way it didn't walk on its own. And it's installed. Lines are hooked up. No jets. Got to get those from the house, which means all this has to come back apart. I'm gonna pull the Schrader valve out of there. Like I said, just like doing a valve stem. That tool right there works. Get that fuel line hooked back up, and then everything should be ready to go back together. Slap the intake back on it. Should be good to go. Okay. Can you see me? Am I in there?
You're in there.
All right, I'm in there. Okay. This has been a little more involved than I thought it was going to be. So I'm kind of learning it at the same time y'all are. So the throttle cable, this throttle body comes with 2 different spots for the cable to actually set in. Now the second slot seems to be about 1 inch for, you know, if you were to put a spacer in there, but because none of this is factory geometry anyway, I took this bracket off and elongated this hole so that it wouldn't pull any tension on it. Even using the second slot, it was doing that. So if y'all don't know anything about this, this just pinches and you push it back out, and when you reinstall it, it snaps right back in there. You just pull your cable out, open the throttle body, drop that in there, cable's good to go. As you can see, it's totally closed. This is in a pretty straight line. It's just an elongated hole with a 10mm bolt. It's not super critical. You just hold the bracket where you want it, snug the bolt up. If if y'all remember, there's brass inserts in this intake, so you don't want to wrench on it too hard. Okay, that's good to go. Now down here, I took my tool, backed my Schrader valve off. You can press on it, it'll bleed the fuel off, and this comes out. I mean, it's literally just a little old Schrader valve, just like a valve stem. So that's good to go. And I'll just take my fuel line and stick it on there. Take my aluminum adjustable wrench. So this is a set of Jegs AN wrenches, and the dash forward didn't seem to fit, so I'm wondering if maybe I don't understand. Good to go?
Good to go.
All right. Action.
Action.
All right. So, did the thing where I fill my phone up with videos and don't post them and don't have any memory again. I do that on a regular basis. So, fuel line's tight. I'll reroute this and zip tie these wires later. Got the nitrous fuel solenoid mounted. The fuel solenoid mounted. The nitrous solenoid's been mounted. None of that changed. Throttle body's tight. Cable's installed. This vacuum line is not gonna go on. So let's see if I can fix that on the fly, or if we're gonna have to take a short siesta. Look at there. Fixed it right up. Okay, vacuum line is on. Good to go. Get these sensors plugged back in. Whoop, we're gonna have enough slack. Oh yeah. Just gotta tug on that harness a little bit. There we go. Alright, all that's back installed. All that's left is the cold air intake, and then we'll fire it up. Cut. Alright, y'all, got her about wrapped up. Haven't crunk it yet. So with that throttle body spacer, I was able to remove this custom job I had to do when we changed the intake. It's really close on the alternator. It does close. I think maybe it touches the hood, but it does close. I do have a safety zip tie on it, which is just looped around the MAF sensor. It doesn't have a lot of tension on it. Right there. And it goes around the core support, and that keeps this from the chance of it getting in the alternator. But I'm gonna hand y'all off to Pops and fire it up, see if we got a running truck again. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Hey, runs. Low fuel leak, so that's good. Get some jets in it, we should have a functioning nitrous system. Alright, a little more technical difficulties. The truck's got a Bluetooth radio in it, so it decided to connect and cut the video off. But old truck sounds good, not too bad for a high mile, wore out motor. Got her back together, now we're gonna go terrorize the streets. Appreciate y'all tuning into the channel. Got a few more subscribers. I appreciate that. We're definitely trying to gear the shop to where we can just build hot rods and hang out, maybe make some YouTube videos. Alright, y'all have a good one.
Cut.
Cut.
Cut.